Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Redskins Talk TV. This is your host, Dre. I want to welcome everyone going into Week 11. Rematch with the Philadelphia Eagles, playing at Lincoln Field. It's going to be a highly anticipated rematch because they really messed us up the first time around. You know, we got some junk yardage in the first game. I hate that term, but that's what it was. Came within a score of tying, keeping it very competitive, but at the same time, things fell through. We had a lot of turnovers, a lot of missed tackles. This particular game is not going to be quite the same as it was the first time around. As I stated in one of my previous videos, I'm not really all bought into Chip Kelly's offense. It doesn't look quite the same as when he was at the University of Oregon as a fast-paced offense. So in the pro level, the guys can move around. That's why they get drafted. That's why they make the big bucks. But the offense really doesn't look any different than any other offense that we go against. The main thing is us being able to get pressure. Now, with the Philadelphia Eagles, the complexion of that team is a little different because right now we don't know if it's going to be Mike Vick that's going to be starting or Nick Foles. Chances are Chip Kelly's going to stick with Nick Foles more than likely, and I get the strange feeling that Michael Vick is going to be not necessarily on the unemployment line, but on a quick way of going to either number 2, which I highly doubt it because he is still a starter in this league. But more than likely, he's going to be with another team possibly next season. They're going to try to go with Nick Foles. He's got a pretty good arm, big guy, so he's been tearing things up lately. So I'm going to give my assessment. Once again, this is my pregame analysis. We got them coming up on Sunday. So the main thing, with our special teams, not really worried all too much about that. There's always going to be a threat if they have Deshaun Jackson returning kicks or punts. So we're really going to have to keep things sealed up. They didn't really tear us up too much with the first game, and things can change from week to week. So we still have to be on our toes when it comes to whoever's going to be returning because we have one of the league's worst return as far as coverage teams. So I'm hoping that, our special teamers, especially with Reed Dowdy, who was just promoted to special teams captain, get things going. Keith Burns as a special teams coach, I'm not really sure if he's done a sufficient job in getting the guys where they used to be. I kind of miss the old special teams coach, but at the same time, change is always part of this league. So hopefully we'll have a good game with that as far as limiting the big gains and the big yardage for the returns against the Eagles. Also, you have to excuse me. I'm a little stuffy. My allergies and everything are getting to me, so I've been taking my nasal spray like it's crack. But it's helping me to breathe. So now on offense, the main thing is move the pocket. I pretty much say this, not necessarily move the pocket, but at least get Robert Griffin III from being a stationary target. The Eagles are going to bring pressure. Most times when I'm watching some of the game film, they're rushing just 4 guys. With us, especially if you look at the fourth quarter of the last game against the Minnesota Vikings, Chris Chester really fucked things up. Got Robert Griffin III hit a lot. I'm not a big fan of him staying in the pocket. He can be a very good pocket passer, but at the same time, he needs the protection of the 5 guys in front of him and sometimes the situational tight end that's going to stay in as a blocker to protect him. Chris Chester, as well as Will Montgomery, the center, they need a lot of help because I don't know what the fuck they're on. I don't know if it's a lack of strength and conditioning. I don't know if they need an injection of testosterone. Whatever the case is, they need to get their ass together to be able to prevent the bull rush. The Philadelphia Eagles, they have a pretty decent front four. They can be passed on. They can be ran on. They've got like the 30th ranked defense, the 31st ranked defense when it comes to the pass. Total defense, excuse me. So it's not like we can't pass or run on them. And with Griffin getting his legs back under him, starting to return to a lot of the form that he had last season, this is going to be a very different game. It's not going to be a blowout. Hopefully we can keep it competitive. Nick Foles, he's going to have a lot of trickery. They're going to have a solid game plan to try to stymie our offense and vice versa. But move the goddamn pocket, Kyle Shanahan. A couple of naked bootlegs, just anything that's going to keep Griffin from being a stationary target. Allow him to run. Still going to have to work. I don't know if we need to bring in someone from the Major League Baseball League, the Nationals, to help Griffin learn how to fucking slide. I know a lot of people, they start to cringe when he gets out of pocket and starts diving for the first downs and everything. It's part of the game for him to get hit, but he is our franchise quarterback, so he's going to have to learn how to slide. I'm not really too big on him about that. He's getting those extra yardages, and no one should really complain when he's able to convert a first down, even if he's putting his body on the line. So, I just want to see a good game from our quarterback without him getting a whole bunch of dirt on his jersey. And that should be the main objective of any offensive lineman on our team, to make sure that number 10 doesn't get dirty. Also, feed the ball to Alfred Morris. The first game was a little bit different. I don't know what the hell happened. Had some jitters, so had a couple of fumbles. I don't foresee that happening. He doesn't have a lot of fumbles in this game. In fact, the most fumbles that he had was against the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's been pretty solid ever since. So feed the ball to him, and I guarantee you he is going to make them shit themselves. Kind of like with LaShawn McCoy, and I'll talk about him in a brief moment when I talk about a defense. But Alfred Morris, he can be a game changer for us if we can feed him the ball steadily. And for Christ's sakes, Kyle Shanahan, stop waiting until the fourth quarter where it's a close game and then you hit the panic button and stop running the ball. That's killing us. It killed us against Denver. It killed us against the Minnesota Vikings. Don't let this shit happen for another game. Also, we have to expose the middle. And this is where Jordan Reed and Santana Moss can do a lot of damage. And also, I think someone who could really, really make a big difference, Aldrick Robinson. He's one of those players, a lot of defensive backs tend to sleep on him. And Aldrick Robinson, he's got that 4.3 speed, so he can get a lot of separation. And on the deep ball, as long as Griffin can get the air under it, Aldrick Robinson has a high probability of catching and scoring a touchdown. So he can be a home run hitter for us as long as he can get the separation from the defensive back and the offensive line gives Robert Griffin III time to pass the ball. But exposing the middle of the field is going to be key in order for us to move the ball. Also, on the outside with Pierre Garçon and Leonard Hankerson, I think they can have a pretty decent game if the corners are going to press up on them, especially with Hankerson and also with Garçon, because they're some of the bigger receivers. Garçon's about 212, 215. Even if you have Josh Morgan in there, because he's a big body receiver, he can't be strong-armed by a 5'9", 5'10" corner. That's about 186, 190 pounds. So force them to backpedal, get the hips turned the opposite direction, and to get some separation, whether it's on an in route or a slant. But the wide receivers, hopefully they won't have a case of the dropsies. We have a solid game. As long as we can move the ball, get down the field, we can keep that defense on the field, get them tired, and that's what's going to help us. And last but not least, how about going with a little bit of no huddle, Kyle Shanahan? Normally when we go into that with the no huddle, we seem to have a lot of success because it forces the defense, especially when the guys are tired, to call timeouts because they're tired, they can't get the substitutions. I know our guys get tired too, but we're dictating the pace. So we need to do a lot more of the no huddle. Allow Griffin to call some of the plays on what he thinks he can see. Allow him to be the field general. I've said that on a previous video, but Kyle Shanahan seems to sometimes put a crutch on Griffin, and that's what's killing us. So on offense, some no huddle, but these things are going to help us to be successful as far as scoring. We've been averaging at least 25 points a game. So with that kind of gains for us, enabling us to score points, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to win a lot of these matchups. And a lot of the losses have been rather close with the exception of the Broncos game. And I'm not even going to go into that because I'm still pissed off about that. Excuse me. Now, as far as defense, I got my little sheet here because I like to put a lot of things that I observe from the opponents. For our defense, for our corners, a couple of things. First and foremost, play the man in front of you. Hopefully, Coach Hazlitt will force these guys, as far as Emerson and Hall, to get up on the line of scrimmage, get in their face. Eat a bowl of shit, something, but get in their face to where they smell the stank on your breath. Make sure that you jam the fuck out of them, which is another point. Jam the receivers. You know, as far as Deshaun Jackson, he's a speedy and quick receiver, but he's not going to make someone push, backpedal like Terrell Owens or, back in the day because he's such a strong body receiver, or Brandon Marshall. He can easily jam if you get the hand on him within that first 5 yards. Now, Riley Cooper, he's starting to redeem himself. He's had a lot of touchdowns as of late. So all that stuff that happened at the beginning of the season where he threw the M-bomb out there at a concert and he was a bit inebriated, he's redeeming himself and he's showing people why he still deserves to be in the league. So I want to give kudos to him. I'm just hoping that he doesn't have a big game against us. And I made a different video about the racial comments that he made, but all the same, in order for us to be successful, we have to basically watch out because Riley Cooper, he's been getting open because a lot of defensive backs are sleeping on him. He's been running a lot of deep routes, a lot of crossing patterns, and there's just a breakdown in coverage where he's sometimes catching in front of two guys and it's just poor angles. So jam him up. He's a kind of a big receiver, but I think Emerson would be a good matchup on him as far as jamming him at the line of scrimmage. And, of course, you can't forget about Jason Avant. He's another big receiver. He's going to play in the slot, but you got to make sure to keep an eye on him. Really don't let any of the receivers get off the line of scrimmage without making them do some fucking work. I don't know why Hazlitt allows our corners to give too much respect. I see a lot more cushion for my corners than you would see in a goddamn furniture store. So we need our defensive backs, especially the corners, to get up on the line of scrimmage and play physical within that first 5 yards. Also, do not let, and I cannot reiterate this, do not let Brent Selleck run free off the line of scrimmage. Whether it's going to be one of those delayed releases where he pretends like he's going to block and then release, but when you see him move, we need to be able to contain him because he's going to cause a lot of problems for our linebackers. London Fletcher, he's good at staying on the back of some of these tight ends. However, he has a hard time keeping up. After all, he's 38, 39 years old, still playing at a fairly high level, but these guys are getting younger, they're getting faster while he's getting older, and he's starting to lose a step. Plus the fact that this season alone, he's had a lot more missed tackles because normally in the past couple of seasons, he's been one of the highest in terms of the number of tackles. He's been one of the ones ranked near the top as far as total tackles per team as well as in the league. So we're not seeing that a lot of production from London Fletcher. Also, Perry Riley and company, they need to be on their toes, fill the gaps, because when you think of the Philadelphia Eagles, not only do you think of Deshaun Jackson, but LaShawn McCoy, the league's leading rusher, while Alfred Morris is ranked third, but LaShawn McCoy, he's getting a lot of good yardage. And against our defense, we've always struggled against one of those shifty running backs that is really good at cutting back. Adrian Peterson is really good at it. LaShawn McCoy is excellent at it. So when we get our defense going one direction and he cuts back, we're screwed. So we have to have gap discipline. Stay in your lanes as far as defenders. Make sure that you can shut down any possibility of him coming the other way. Watch out for things because also LaShawn McCoy is great at catching the ball out of the backfield. So whether they're running some sort of screen, whatever the case is, whenever he moves, make sure that you keep an eye on him. I'm not saying follow him because if the linebacker follows him, it's going to open up the middle, and that's where Brent Selleck comes in or some sort of en route or crossing pattern for the Eagles receivers. Also, get pressure on Nick Foles. Unfortunately, our defenders aren't doing a great job of getting pressure, especially when it comes to going up against second and third string quarterbacks. We saw it when we tried to go up against Matt Castle. We also saw it when we went up against the backup quarterback, Josh McCown. I believe that's who it was for the Bears. But rushing 4 or 5 guys, unfortunately, it's a game where a lot of holds are being missed. I know some of our guys hold, but when you see Ryan Kerrigan getting a neck put around him like someone's trying to put a guillotine choke on him, and the refs aren't calling that, that's some straight-up bullshit. But all the same, we need for our linebackers, outside linebackers, for Arakpo and Kerrigan to really do the damn thing. Kerrigan in particular, because a lot of guys try to cut him low, and he's really good about jumping over them or getting at least one hand down and keeping his balance. He's had a couple of picks, run back for interception. He missed that crucial one that could have really been a game changer last week, and he's normally good about that. So you really can't fault him for that. It's just something that happens. But I think if we can get some pressure up the middle and not allow for Nick Foles to step up in the pocket to throw deep, I think we'll do well. Hopefully we can get our defenders, they can, shed their blocks, get their hands up, especially on some of those passes that are coming right at them so they can bat the ball down, bat it up in the air so that hopefully we can get a pick. But whatever the case is, we need some pressure going right up the middle. And also, watch out for the screens. The Eagles are one of the best teams in the league when it comes to running that damn bubble screen. So you can expect for Deshaun Jackson or LaShawn McCoy to get some sort of screen. And it's just one of those things where our defenders have to make sure not to overcommit. Because, you know, if anything breaks down, Nick Foles, he's not the speed kind of guy like Vic is. So if he tucks the ball, he's going to be lumbering down the field. He can get some yardage, but when it comes to plays like that, we have to be very disciplined. So hopefully Jim Haslett will call a sensible game to where he can have the safeties helping out on the corners, but at the same time not sending the whole house in, because one-on-one, I'm just not sure if our guys are going to make it. So especially when you go up against Deshaun Jackson running deep. And that's pretty much my assessment for special teams, offense, and defense. Once again, I don't think it's going to be anything like the first game to where we look like we were some sort of low-budget high school team going up against a pro football team. I think it's going to look a lot better. We're going to have a lot more solid run game. I'm hoping that they move the pocket, get Griffin, you know, from getting hit too often. I'm pretty sure if he's going to run, defenders are going to want to have a chance to tag at him. But all the same, if we can stay competitive in this and if we can get a victory, that's going to start to turn our fortunes around. That's going to move us in the ranks, because right now we're in last place in the NFC East. So I'm not sure if we're going to have one of those 6-game runs to try to make it to the top of the list for the NFC East. A lot of that's going to depend on how strong we play and the sensible game calling. Kyle Shanahan, please don't fuck this up for us. But there's a lot of blame to go around with a lot of these losses because they have been competitive. But we'll have to see how things go. And, of course, after the game, I'm going to have my post-game analysis. But if you like this video, I hope that you like, subscribe, and share. To my Redskins family, hail to the Redskins. Peace.